I have spent a lot of time really going in and understanding underworld beings, the spirits who are trapped in different dimensions because of their own choice not to move forward. How did they end up in the darkness? What is the darkness? Why are they there? And what I have found is there's these different levels of consciousness that operate in the lower dimensional field.
Are we really just here to remember? And what are we actually remembering about ourselves?
Everyone is demonstrating something. This demonstration is creating rippling waves that go out through the universe and create new dimensional fields of energy. These dimensional fields of energy also spark remembrance for other beings in other galaxies that are similar to ours or even close to ours in evolution. As we begin to progress as human beings, we begin to realize that the remembering is the aspect of acknowledging ourselves as these creators, right?
Hello, family. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share with you something that I've been working on for a very long time. This isn't just another idea or experiment. It's something that I believe will change everything within this community. For months, I've been building something behind the scenes, something that I believe is missing at the core from everything that we do here. I can't say much yet, but if you've ever resonated with any of the conversations on this podcast and you feel like there's a deeper layer into all of this stuff, you need to be at my first ever live event. It's happening very soon, and I want you to be part of this very sacred moment. You can hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, and I will see you inside. Enjoy the episode, and I'm excited for the evolution that we're co-creating together. Shaman Durek, welcome on Just Happen, brother. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
I would say that I'm excited about holding space and seeing people's potential rise and seeing how the limitless aspects of humanity living within every multidimensional aspect of every human being is capable of reaching into ascension and capable of recognizing who they are in the heart and love of our Mother, Father, God. And for that gives me joy. It makes me wake up in the morning and feel excited to be a part of this amazing experience. I don't live in the ideas that a lot of people live in, which is this constant idea of wanting to have some kind of mission or purpose. I don't believe I have a mission or purpose. That's not how I live my life. I live my life through the sheer understanding of joy, doing what I love because I love it and because it connects with me and it connects with the divine. I don't seek the accolades that others, want to give me. I'm appreciative of them, and I'm appreciative when people see me clearly. However, I don't want my desires to do things because I need people to praise me or to illuminate me. I want my illumination directly from God. I want my illumination from my mother and father, from my guides, from my ancestors, from the Orishas, from the ascended masters, from the elemental spirits, from all the deities of light, to constantly remind me of who and what I am. Because I've learned through my journey on earth that when you put yourself into positions of giving that over to others, not everyone is qualified to speak on your behalf. Not everyone is qualified to be able to answer in a way that comes directly from the source. A lot of times people don't channel the source, and those who do are the ones that I choose to listen to. Some people channel kind of half and half. They'll say some things that are very low dimensional, low vibration, underworld stuff, and then they'll throw in a little bit of love in there as well. And so I'm very much about being in a place of reverence every day and honoring that sacred space where I'm able to connect with people who are just completely operating pure channel directly from my mother and father. So that way I am getting the highest vibrational field of consciousness, and I'm able to share that vibrational field of consciousness in same.
And we live in a world where, in a dimension actually, that has both darkness and light, as you've taught before. And you've been seeing these energies and these spirits since you were a toddler. How have you refined that ability to discern whether something is coming from a low dimensional underworld frequency and another is coming from pure source consciousness, as you mentioned?
It's quite easy, actually. Through my younger years, I have spent a lot of time really going in and understanding underworld beings, the spirits who are trapped in different dimensions because of their own choice not to move forward, and really intervening with them, not from a judgmental place, not from a place of, I have to fix them or save them, but more from a place of wanting to just give them space to share. How did they end up in the darkness? What is the darkness? Why are they there? And what I have found is there's these different levels of consciousness that operate in the lower dimensional fields. There's consciousness that can be very degrading and dark, where it's like, where life and the value of life is not even acknowledged. And then there's consciousness that is just simply just putting someone down, or not, putting doubt in them, or putting fear in them, or, very, very, very basic level stuff. But what I found in the dark, or the lower dimensional fields, as I would say, is the way that they operate. So they operate in what is called isolation mode. And I've really have done so many case studies. And now, I started at such a young age. I'm now 50. So it's been quite a journey of devotion. And for me, devotion is something that I really take seriously when it comes to spiritual aptitude and ability to bring forth information to people, because you don't just bring stuff that's regurgitated. You have to really go in and do your own due diligence. And what I found is that when spirit says something to you from a lower dimension, they're looking at your life experience. So they're looking at everything you've done from the time you were a child to where you are now, where you don't feel love in certain areas of that experience. Of maybe it was something that happened to you, or you grew up in a family that wasn't loving, or you had bad breakup, or you were betrayed, or whatever it may be, or you did something to someone. It doesn't matter. It could be either or. There's no judgment. The point I'm making is they look at that. And that's one of the reasons why I found out that spirit doesn't give you access to all of your other lifetimes. Because if spirit gave you access to all of your lifetimes, they would see that as well too. And so they can only see what you can see. And what they do is they pinpoint places inside of you that you have not come into love with. And people call this your shadow, right? The part of you that's unloved, the part that you turn your back on, the part that you have not come into harmony with, that you haven't brought into ascension, okay? And what it does is it looks for those parts, and then it isolates you. And the way it isolates you is it finds ways. Think of it like someone trying to con you, or trying to sell you something before you have a chance to figure out that you're actually in a con, right? And what they do is they repeat and repeat, or they'll say things that will really trigger you, in hopes that you don't have the consciousness or the awareness to go to a spirit guide, to go to an ancestor, to go to an ascended master, to go to your mother and father God, to go to child God, to go to any of the divine sentient beings of light and ask if it's true. And most people don't clarify that level of truth. They just listen, and they get cornered by the darkness. And then once you actually take it in and you can feel it in your body, you start to take ownership of their vibrational field. And then it literally moves you down into the lower dimensional realms. Even though you think you are still here, you are, because the dimensions overlap. So you are here, but you're actually you're sitting in darkness. And that's when you'll start getting more and more fear, more and more lack, more and more scarcity, more and more things, until they can hijack your mind. And the way they hijack your mind is and I talk about it in my book, they use these different types of frequencies and energies to first start taking over your mind, then your emotions, then your body. And the way they take over your mind, and you'll know when you've been hijacked, is when you're constantly thinking negative about things. That means that it's not you who's thinking, it's them who's thinking for you. Right. And if you start feeling all the time fear and feeling negative things, that's because they've now hijacked your emotional. So your mind, your consciousness has its own consciousness. So meaning it's its own dimension. And as we would say in shamanism, and your emotions has its own dimension. Your body has its own dimension, and your soul, which is your inner child, the feminine and masculine inside of you, has its own dimension as well. And that is the what we call the reflector light that reflects back to you. So when someone goes, Shaman Durek, I've been abandoned when I was a kid, and that's why I have abandonment issues. No, that's not why you have abandonment issues. The reason why you have abandonment issues is because your soul is reflector's light. That means that you are still acting out the behaviors that you experienced when you were a child to yourself. Your soul will always go back to the past as a reference point because it has no other way to reference it for you, to show you, like, if it's showing you some pain from the past that you haven't gotten over, it's not because that was the thing that caused you the pain. A lot of people don't understand that your soul does not hang out in the past. It only uses it as a reference key to get you to realize what you're still doing to yourself. Your soul, when people tell me, oh, it's because I can't move on because I went through such pain in my childhood, that's not true. It means that they're still doing the same thing that went on in their childhood to themselves, and the soul is referencing it through the inner child, because your soul is a childlike spirit, as a reflector's light, to the part of your being that can understand that in your way of thinking. So it tells you, oh yeah, your inner child is hurt, or your inner child is dealing with this pain. No, your inner child doesn't deal with those things. Your inner child deals with one thing: your alignment, and your alignment only. So if your alignment to self is not loving, kind, generous, nurturing, supportive, holding space, creating boundaries, acknowledging your greatness, acknowledging your power, being kind to yourself, loving yourself, wording yourself up, seeking knowledge, sharing knowledge, learning, experiencing, all of these things, emulating these energies out into the world, right? Demonstrating love into the world, demonstrating peace, demonstrating all these things, because that's what we're doing. We're just demonstrating, right, to each other. The darkness knows that you don't know how it operates. It knows that you don't know that its job is to isolate you first, away from God, away from your guides, away from anyone you could call on. And most people don't like to be told what to do. So they already have a complex with our Mother, Father, God, and with the angels, and with their spirit guides, and with beings that are of the light, who are here to steward you, to support you, to assist you, to be on your team, because they love you and because you are such a miracle of life to them. They honor you. They made this journey with you, and they walk with you, and you never talk to them. Only when something's bad, people talk to them. They go into meditation, like they have to get into meditative state to talk to their guides, when that's not the case. You don't have to, right? They're always here. And the reason why people don't hear them, it's not because they're not speaking. It's because you are not liking, you have pride, either because you think you have to be perfect. So you block them out because you don't want them to tell you something that doesn't make you look perfect. Or you don't hear them because you don't like being told what to do. And people see it as an act of being told what to do when you have this idea that you were going to go for this job and you were going to take this job, and Spirit's like, absolutely not. That's not a good path for you. In fact, it's going to cause you a lot of pain, and the people aren't going to appreciate you and acknowledge you and utilize your skills in the right way. And we have something better coming down. We just need you to be a little bit more patient. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to have that kind of dialogue, because human beings still haven't gotten through the part of recognizing what it means to be humble and in service. And service and humble is an act of being able to be given instruction from those can see more and understand more than you do, right? And so what happens is when darkness knows that human beings have that, it's easy for darkness to infiltrate people, because all darkness has to do is make you think, because it uses your tone and your voice, because it knows you'll listen to it and honor it the most. It will match your frequency and vibration. You think it's actually you who's doing these things. Now, that's how the underworld operates. Now, the underworld also operates in the way of getting people what I call puppets. Puppets are people that have fallen into darkness and they have now become slaves to the darkness. Now, you'll see these people when they walk around and say things like, you're going to hell, or people who will shut down your dreams, or people who will like put you down. Anyone who attempts to bring your vibration down is probably a puppet from the darkness, and some people don't even know they are. One of the things that I always ask people, because I don't argue with people, I don't have time for that kind of nonsense. I ask people very clearly, are you saying this to me because you want to empower me and lift me? Or are you saying this to me because you want to bring me down and insult me? And that puts it on them. Because at this point, I'm not here to fix anyone, but I am here to understand your motives, and I'm here to understand your intentions, so I can be clear about what choices I have to make in my life and the way I operate and the people I choose to operate with. So darkness knows that you will never go into that level of awareness. So it's hoping you don't. It's hoping that it's created enough of people who just constantly react and constantly don't take the time to really listen and understand that you live in a quantum universe. You are transversing timelines all the time, and that your mind is not this your mind thing. It is a we mind thing, and it belongs to everyone. And your emotions belongs to everyone, and your spirit belongs to everyone, because we're all a part of one another. So even my little boy, which is the little girl, little boy in me, is also a part of you as well. And yours is a part of mine. And we're all one big family, right? So if it can get you to believe that that's not the case and you can isolate you, it can make you believe that you're all alone and that this is, and it keeps triggering you by saying things to you that would actually affect you emotionally. That's how it gets in. Now, the light, on the other hand, the light, or the higher dimensional beings, they're all about empowering you. They're all about lifting you. They're all about reminding you how amazing you are. You'll never hear a higher being ever try to insult you or put you down, even when they're giving you instruction, and it's for your benefit to change a behavior that has been questionable or not in right character. They still stay in a place of love. Even when people treat me with disrespect and so forth, I still give them love. I was with a friend and I said to him, he was getting angry on a table with something that another friend and I said. And I simply said to him, is this the right emotion you want to choose for this situation? Because emotions are energy and you're choosing them. Do you want to choose this one? Is this the one that's appropriate? Do you feel like this is going to get you what you want the most from this situation of us sitting in a restaurant surrounded by a bunch of people? The fact of the matter that I am a public figure and everyone in this restaurant knows me, and all eyes are watching you and watching you and watching me and watching my other friend, because that's what it's like. And you're going from point 1 to point 10, your face is turning red, you're starting to go into rage and anger. Did you choose the right emotion? And he was like, oh my God, no. I was like, because you're on a table with two people who love you, but you're about to go into anger. That might be something you might use if someone was trying to mug you, or if you were trying to escape something, maybe you were in some kind of conflict where you had to fight for your life. Maybe that would be the time you use that energy. But everything is energy. And to be an energy master, right? And so that's what the higher beings teach you. They teach you about energy. They teach you about how to utilize energy for the benefit of yourself and for those around you. And so that's how you tell the difference. So when someone talks to me within maybe 5 maybe 1 minute to 5 minutes, I can sit and listen, and I can tell where that person is at just by the way they speak, the words they use, the choice of words they use, because words are codes and codes create combinations, and combinations open up gates of energy. And those energies are coming in and out continuously, calling in spirits and releasing spirits, calling in spirits, releasing spirits based upon what you say. Every word is a spell. So every time you speak, you're casting a spell. So I like to watch what kind of spells people cast. It gives me a very refined clarity about the person I'm associating with, and then it helps me to decide how in which I will continue to, you know, convene with them or not convene with them, depending upon what is most necessary for our growth, for my growth, and also for their growth. But never through judgment, never through spite, never through, oh, I can't believe you're not evolved enough. Nothing like that. Everyone is evolving at their own pace. I am here not to judge anyone's evolution. I am here, though, to bring awareness about it and to share how we can be better, how we can go further, how we can go higher in our way in which we perceive consciousness, and how we interact with our emotional intelligence, and how we understand our gifts that are not really gifts, but they are natural aspects of our dynamics of being an evolved species, and really help people get out of that, like, this is some special gift, to this is a part of being a human being who's evolving.
Mm. And you're the type of shaman that has had to go continuously on these rites of passage or initiations, going into those depths and coming back out with that strength, with that sovereignty, with that power. I'm curious to know what activated within you when you visited or were called to visit Delphi in Greece.
So I was in, where was I at the time? I had met this guy who was a hypnotherapist in London, actually, and he invited me to come to Athens to see and witness, what he does with his students. And when as a shaman, and at that time in my age, I was very much a bit kind of like, hypnotherapy, does it really work? Is it something that's really going to do something for me? But I'm always curious. And I always, before I decide to dismiss something, I always believe it's important that if I'm going to say I'm a logical being does their due diligence and finds out if it's true first before opening their mouth. So I decided to take the trip, and I jumped on a plane and went to Athens. And he put this watch in front of my face, and I didn't think anything happened at all, to be honest. And then he played a tape recorder. At that time, we had tape recorders. And it was me talking on the tape recorder, talking about the fact that I was the Oracle of Delphi, and then I needed to return and I needed to go back. I never heard of Delphi in my entire life. And so that was kind of strange to me. And that's what kind of stuck out the most, was that I've never heard of Delphi. I've never even read a book about it. I never heard anyone talk about it. And all of a sudden I'm listening to this voice talk in a very whispering, soft tone, talking about me being this woman who used to sit up on this pedestal, and the smoke would come in my face, and and that I was the Oracle of Delphi and I have to return. And it was quite an interesting ordeal. I would think sometimes I find some of the patterns in my life to be quite interesting, and almost there's two sides of me. There's one side that's the skeptic, and it's like, oh, this is really weird. And then there's the other side that's like, okay, let's go forward. Let's go into this. I believe this. I trust this, right? And I've always been that. And I think that's because of my Scorpio Capricorn nature. I'm very much a practical person. I'm always about putting things into practicality and bringing it into common sense and realness. And so, even though I heard that, the skeptic part of me was like, okay, well, I mean, okay, I was hypnotized. Okay, wow, I'm kind of blown away. So I had to take that in for a moment. And then I went to his family's house, and they were so kind. And his family was asking me all these questions about, like, when the great wars start on Earth, can you please promise that my kids will survive? Can you talk to the ancient gods? And I heard a voice in my head say yes. We're with you. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I didn't know what I was saying. I was just saying whatever the spirit had said to me to say. And then they said, we're going to take you to Delphi As soon as I got in the car, I fell asleep the whole entire way. I didn't even wake up not once. I slept the whole entire time. I think it was like a 4 hour, 5 hour trip from where they were living. And we got there and they wanted to get a tour guide. And I got out the car and I started getting dizzy, a bit nauseous. And then all of a sudden I looked around and I was like, oh my God, I've been here. Wow, this is really happening. And then my skeptic mind was like, bye. No more skeptic. I'm fully involved, and I just knew where everything was. I told the family, I told the tour guide, I don't really need a tour. I know right over there is where they used to blow the trumpet. That's where the people who had slaves would wash and bathe. Over here is where the wealthy people came, and this is where people would sleep. This is where people would go into prayer and meditation, and this is where people would go. Down there is a Medusa head. Like, I basically laid it all out for them. And they were in shock and they were like, you've been here before? I'm like, no, but in another time I have. And I remember. And that was really a very instrumental time for me. I think a lot of my experiences have been instrumentally I definitely know that spirit definitely likes to give me like a really impactful experience. There's never a dull moment with spirit, I can tell you. If it's not me dying, if it's not me going to the Wailing Wall and Israel and hearing God's voice speak to me, and if it's not, me standing on the mountains of Golan and seeing like how everything used to look, to me, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, the amount of just how clear spirit puts me in certain situations. And even when I am going through painful situations, I've gone through a lot of pain in my life, but I never look at it like, oh, I'm going through so much pain. Like, to me, I've learned to adapt to pain as an opportunity to grow and to share and to be able to transcend that pain through deep conscious meditation and awareness, and I think that's very important because a lot of times people have this very interesting way of looking at life where they're like, okay, I'm learning my lessons. No, you're not learning any lessons. You're evolving. And it's evolution. And evolution comes with many things. You didn't come to Earth to be perfect, but you did come to Earth to experience some pain. You came to Earth to have hurt, because all of those things are meant to transform by you to alchemize into teaching, into sharing, into bringing forth wisdom and knowledge to the people. These things are never meant in vain. And so I look at all my pain as amazing experiences of growth for myself and for community. And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
The last time we talked, you told me that you didn't come to Earth to run away from the system. You came to Earth to change the system from the inside out. So what does that tell us about certain souls that feel that call, not a mission, not a purpose, but the call to shift the system from the inside out? Why exactly is that calling there in the first place? What are we trying to change in the system?
It's funny, when I said that to you a while back, a lot has changed in my viewpoint on that. And I actually realize what I meant now from what I thought I meant at the time that I said it. So when I said it to you, I was thinking more like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to shift the matrix, I'm going to do all of these things, right? But as I've matured, I've realized that any idea of purpose or any idea of me being like a savior or some Superman complex or I have to save the world is a part of the ego. It's a disillusionment. It's a masterful disillusionment at that, because what it does is it makes you constantly ridicule yourself and judge yourself and be hard on yourself and create expectations and think and constantly measure yourself by to other people and to what you see happening in the world. Are you doing enough? Is it enough? Have you done enough? And one day I woke up and I said, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And Spirit said, no. Spirit said, this is not how you're supposed to feel in being of service. This is not what it's supposed to feel like. You're never supposed to judge yourself or measure yourself or ask yourself if you're good enough, or if you've done enough, or any of that. And if the fact that you even consider that as a thought means you're completely way off. So I had to really do some soul searching there. And I am the type of person that when I say something and then I go into it and I do a little more soul searching, I always like to share it with people because I think it's important, because evolution is a real thing. And we have to be able to realize, the choices we make and the things we say. And then also, hey, you know what? I actually understand it a little bit more deeper than what I thought. And so what I understand is, when I say change the system from the inside out, is that I'm not here to save this world. I'm not here to save anyone. I'm not here to be anyone's leader or anyone's guru or anyone's shaman. I'm just me. I'm here to share. And if that sharing makes something happen for you, that's great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't, I, excuse me, I've learned through many times of putting myself in the forefront of society as a public figure on TV, in the media all the time, that it's not about fame. It's not about any of these things. What it's about is being able to love your life and do what you love without the idea that I have to do it to make someone happy. And that's where I start to change the system from the inside out, because I have no attachment to what outcome may come about. I have no attachment to if you decide to grow or not grow. I have no attachment to anything and anyone, because for me, it's about your choices. You get to decide what you do with the wisdom that I share with you. If you throw it in the trash can, okay, that's where it goes. It doesn't upset me. It doesn't make me feel like, oh my God, you're not evolved. No, because I have no attachment to that. What I am here to do is to do things that make me happy, to learn new things and dive into them deeper with spirit, to understand the deep wisdoms of ancient times, of my lives, my ancient times that I lived in Egypt, my times that I lived as a chancellor in Atlantis, and my lifetimes as the Oracle of Delphi, and all these different lives. And when I was a concubine to the emperor in China, and all of the experiences that I went through that experience. And also when I was a slave in ancient Mesopotamia, after the life way before Delphi. I realize, and there's many other lives as well too, but I realize, like, what is the purpose of all of these lives? It's not for me to be some grandiose shaman. It's not for me to be some, like, oh, I'm the wise shaman. No, no. Mm-mm. It's about me being able to understand life and all of its many things that people go through in life. The ugly things, the beautiful things, the simple things, the more intense things, the more dramatic things that, it doesn't matter to me, because to me, it's all beautiful. And so I get to shift consciousness through myself, and then dynamically just be like, just here. And if people are open to the information and it does something, great. But I believe that in itself is shifting the internal system, because the internal system is built upon the idea that you will see yourself as a Superman complex. It wants you to have a purpose. It wants you to have a mission. It wants you to follow this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step program, because that perfectly sits in with the system. That's how the system was built. And the system wants you to measure yourself. It wants you to look at other people. It wants you to have attachments. It wants you to get triggered. It wants everything, because that's how it encroaches on you as a slave. That's how it creates slave mentality, you see, where you start to live with this idea that you're actually doing something, but in fact, you're actually just working for a system that has already put the rules in place, and you're just following the rules, but you're calling it something different. So for me, changing the system internally is about detaching from it, letting go of what I want something to be, or how I think it should be, or what I want the world to change into. I have a vision of how wonderful it would be for the world to be a place based in love. But remember, the reason why most human beings suffer on planet Earth isn't because that life is, this horrible thing. It's because they have created fantasies in their head of what they think life should be. So if they see their mother, in their head, their mother is, loving and nurturing and kind and sweet and, always there for them. And then in real life, their mother is selfish and this and that and the other. That's where the pain comes in, is they go, why aren't you like this? Right? Relationships, why aren't you like this? Parents, friends, you name it. The place you serve, where you show up for your job. Same thing. Everything is based on these attachments and these stories and narratives that you've built in your mind, these fantasies of what you think it should be versus looking at what it really is in this dimension. And so when I look at the world and see it for what it really is, I see a bunch of people, evolving at different paces and different rates and different levels of frequency. And if I can support someone because I share something with them, or they seek something that I can share that can make their life a little bit more easier, more manageable, more loving, more kind, where they can manifest more, where they can create something fantastic. But I'm not attached to it. And that's where I feel I am shifting the system, because now I'm going away from the program of the system and getting off the conveyor belt, getting off the running, what I call the running man. I'm getting off of the idea that how the whole system was built from ancient times to where it is today, which is master, slave. Slave thinks he's free, but he's actually following the master's rules, but he's calling it something different. And he thinks he's free. That's not freedom. That's still slavery.
This is really, really deep territory. I'm trying to get all these epiphanies and put them into words so I can reflect a little bit of what you said and how I felt into it. And it's almost like society, when it's operating from darkness, wants us isolated, wants us separate, as you said in the beginning. And then in order for us to not feel isolated and separate, we try to find a purpose or connect with some sort of mission that leads us into less solidarity. And when I first met you in 2019 in a conference, a biohacking conference, you were having lunch next to me. You stood up, you're giving everyone hugs, and I'm like, I want my hug. And then you hugged me and you said something along the lines of, the world needs you. And I broke down in tears. And in that point, in that infliction moment, was like, the world needs me. And then I connected with this like mission for myself, like this purpose, like, oh, I'm here, as you said, savior complex. And the more I've gone down this journey, I've realized like, really, this is just about sharing, as you said, sharing information and inviting people to remember, because as you said, you've remembered your lives so that you can relate to humanity. So just putting that there into the table of the conversation of, are we really just here to remember? And what are we actually remembering about ourselves?
So I want to go back from where we talked at the biohacking conference. And when I said the world needs you, and it does, but the world doesn't need you as a savior. It needs you awakened.
Yes.
Because when you are awakened, when you are able to see yourself, remember yourself, what you do is you become what is called a demonstrator. See, people are demonstrating all kinds of things on the planet. Some people demonstrate cancer. Some people demonstrate hate. Some people demonstrate fear. Some people demonstrate love. Some people demonstrate what it looks like to take care of yourself, what it looks like to love yourself. Some people demonstrate what it looks like to be adventurous. Everyone is demonstrating something. This demonstration is creating rippling waves that go out through the universe and create new dimensional fields of energy. These dimensional fields of energy also spark remembrance for other beings in other galaxies that are similar to ours or even close to ours in evolution. As we begin to progress as human beings, we begin to realize that the remembering is the aspect of acknowledging ourselves as these creators, right? Is when I talk to Mother and Father God, they always say to me, you're still in the process of understanding your worth. And I go, okay, got it. And I take that in, right? Not if I understand my worth and I'm like, I have it all figured out. No, this is an eternal journey. It is not a this lifetime kind of thing. It is an acknowledgement of the spectrum of you that exists as gods in other dimensions, and the spectrum of you that exists as you are in this dimension in many dimensions, because you're not just existing in this dimension. There are multi-dimensional aspects of you in its fullness and in all dimensional fields of different timelines, right? So remembering is the key element of the core witness. It's the core witness. And the core witness is the part of your being that witnesses itself in all aspects of life. In the tree, in the flower, in the ground, in the earth, in the soil, in the mountain, in the wind, in the person, in the dog, in the cat, in the bird, in the snail, in the everything. The remembrance that most people think they're doing is just of themselves. And that's what I said in the beginning of this conversation, is that we live in a world where people are still self-gratifying themselves. You look on social media, you go to someone's page, it's all about them. It's them, 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 them. It's them holding space for themselves to understand themselves, but not understand the world. Taking selfies, doing, these very self-centered ideas of self, because they think if they can understand themselves and love themselves and be loved by others, then they're someone. So they think that if their value is antiquated by the sheer will of other people's accolades, then it identifies their existence. And that's not true. Existence isn't based upon the identification of other people's accolades. And in fact, it actually destroys the very core harmony within your being. Because the idea of needing other people's accolades means that you would have to be able to make reference to yourself to every single person in all of their, what do we call, evolutionary levels of consciousness. And not everyone is existing at the same evolutionary consciousness. So therefore, you would have to then shapeshift yourself into each person's dimensional field of consciousness, dark, light, this, that, who knows where they're at, to get people's approval. And therefore, the fact that you seek the approval outside of yourself, instead of you seeing the approval that is in all of everything in you, then you are constantly in the act of remembering. And so remembering is not a singularity. It is a interdimensional awareness. It's not, I remember myself. No, I remember the trees. I remember the fairies. I remember the elves. I remember the ancient ones. I remember the ones who are in other planets and galaxies. I remember them. I remember you. I remember the flowers. I remember everything. And even as I say this, I get these electric chills in my body, because Spirit is saying that this is the thing that darkness wants us to forget. You see, darkness isn't having us play out war on our planet and doing all of these subversive things to each other because it just wants to distract us. That's one aspect, to isolate us and distract us. But it wants us to act against the remembering of all. It wants us to forget who you are. If I'm willing to hurt you, kill you, lie to you, put you down, I have forgotten. I have fallen into a sleep of I forgot. And that's exactly what the beings in darkness are like. They have forgotten who you are. And that's what they want. They want you to join that forgottenness. And so when people one time this friend of mine was saying something to another friend. He was putting him down, and I said to him, I said, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean, Shaman? This person's irritating me. I said, you don't remember them? You don't remember them, huh? You've forgotten who it is. And I just started welling up in tears. And he's like, what's going on? Why are you so upset? I said, because you're starting to forget. And that's exactly what darkness wants. We can't forget.
And of course, I'm getting the sense that God or the creator played the game out in this way for a reason. And when you were in Israel, what happened when you asked God directly, who and what are you?
So when I was at the Wailing Wall in Israel, and I was putting my note into the wall, and I asked God, I was with my friend Devorah, and I asked God, who are you? And I saw my cells, the trees, the flowers, the wind, the sun, the sky, the earth, the ocean, the bottom of the sea, the animals, every human being, everything, the stars, the this, the that. It was showing me everything. And then I just got it. It made sense to me. I understood. And I think that was a very pivotal time for me in the relationships, because I studied world religion. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
I studied world religion, and I was a reborn again Christian. I was studying shamanism and spiritualism, and studying all kinds of cultures, studying Buddhism, and understanding the Bhagavad Gita, and really getting. And when I say understanding it, I don't mean like dibble dabble. I mean like diving fully in, becoming it, living it, breathing it, and then walking away from it. And what I found in these things is this really interesting way of looking at God. Even the word God can really trigger some people because it has been used as such a weapon on our planet. But the idea of God, and then I started really getting into Christianity not because I think it's like the all, wonderful thing. And I think all things that support people to be on high vibration is great. So if you're a Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Baha'i, you're Buddhist, you're, Tibetan, you're a Wicca, whatever it is you call yourself, whatever, if you're just a tree hugger, as long as it lights your spirit up and it makes you make choices that are high vibrational, I'm totally for it. I have no judgment over people's choice of observation, of creation. But what I do find fascinating, though, is that a lot of people base their religious indoctrinations on things that have been subversively changed through history to match a narrative that if you go and study Aramaic language, you will see that a great deal of what has been said has not been said. I even dived into the whole hell things. I thought that was very fascinating because I had this one woman come up to me on the street and tell me I was going to hell. And I was like, have you been there? And she's like, no. I was like, how do you know I'm going there? And she's like, because you're a shaman and the Bible says so. And I was like, the Bible says so? Are you sure? Are you sure the Bible, did Jesus say that you're going to hell? You sure about that? Or was that a story that was taken from Dante's Inferno and put into the Bible through Saint Constantine to create and invoke fear that people would stay on their due diligent path of honoring the word of God, because they didn't have anything like that before, And she was like, what? And I go, and also, whose team are you on? Do you serve God's love? Because what I remember is that you're supposed to be talking about the kingdom of heaven and the love and the energy. Why are you anointing my head with a mark of I'm going to hell? Are you serving a spirit that is going to be taking people to hell and you're marking them? And the woman just lost it. She was like, couldn't believe what I said. And she felt like she had no idea that she was doing that, because that indoctrination was so intense in her. She thought she was saving me by degrading me. And I find that fascinating in religion, that human beings have used religion as an art of degradation and destruction instead of uplifting and illuminating, which I find that to be absolutely fascinating. So I've studied so much of, people's spiritual practices, ideas of religion. I've lived in those countries, and really dived into the languaging, and I find the commonality um, that's still a little bit distorted because it still holds the foundation of subservience. And that subservient energy does not serve the truth of liberation. And liberation is creation. And so anywhere we create a subservient place where we feel like we have to go do, like, I used to go to temple and chant, Namiho Renge Kyo, and, have the Gohanzen and everything and the ding, ding, ding. And some of my friends who were also chanting too, like they would miss a day and they would get really upset with themselves. And then I was just like, wow, this is interesting. And then I'd see it in Christianity and I'd see it in my Muslim friends and I'd see it in, all these different belief systems. But I never saw that in shamanism. And shamanism was always, for me, because shamanism exists in many different forms. You have your spiritualists, you have shamans, you have, the word shaman comes from Mongolia, but in different cultures, it's called Babalao, and different cultures, they have different names for it. The curandero and santeria and all these, everyone has a different name for what a shaman is. But what a shaman is in nature is someone to really go into the spirit world and learn from the spirits and ancestors to be able to bring forth their teachings, their wisdom, their knowledge to us and maintain it so that we don't forget, because it's a technology. It's a powerful technology. And it doesn't sit in this idea of duality. It doesn't sit in this kind of like subservient or you have to or else, or, something bad is going to happen like this. It doesn't sit in that place. And that's why I've always connected with it when I was young in my family, with my grandmothers and my family members who were still practicing our traditions. It was a clarity of freedom to explore without the damnation or something we're doing wrong, or even in my friends in India, one of my friends did their family has every year has to go and do this big ceremonies where they buy tons of loaves of bread and gallons of milk, and they have to pour it down this thing for like Lakshmi and Durga and all these things, and there's all these poor people trying to reach up in the cave to get like a little bit of the milk. And if you spill, then they have to do this oil ceremony. If they spill one drop of oil, they get bad luck for the whole year. And I had told one of my friends, I said, you better move out of your family's house because they spilled that oil, because they believe it so deeply that they'll actually make it happen. And it did happen for them. The family lost their business. Things didn't go well for them. And she moved out, so it didn't even affect her. But what was fascinating was that every year, these wealthy families in India, they do these ceremonies to honor, all of the different, I don't want to go through all the names, but, all the different deities. And there's all these poor people who don't have any food and don't have anything to drink. And they're just dumping all this juice and food. I mean, in one event, they had like a whole buffet table for all the gods and goddesses, and then afterward just do it in the trash. And there's all these people starving in their country. And that bewilders me. It bewilders me when we forget what's really important, which is I exist, you exist, we exist onto each other. There is no separation. So why am I dumping it to a god? Wouldn't the gods be just as happy as I gave the milk and the bread and everything to the people? You see, and I think these very indoctrinated type of ways that I see in different people's belief systems and is still held with this assertive dominance of, if you don't, this will happen. And I'm not into that doomsday way of thinking when it comes to spiritual enlightenment.
Mm. And you mentioned how that family, they believed it so strongly that they actually created bad luck in their household. What are some of the belief systems, whether religious or not, that you feel are the most empowering for people to lead us toward that liberation, sovereignty, and all the things that we've been speaking about?
I don't think that I'm here to tell you a belief system because again, it's a belief system. It doesn't support my way of sharing. And I think that when we come upon a belief, that is something that you have experienced through your life exploration and journey. And if it's not supporting you in the highest level of love, if it's not empowering you, if it's not lifting you, if it's not shifting you, if it's not making you feel so good for being alive, then I would say get rid of it. I'm not here to tell you this. I've studied so many people's different belief systems, and I'm not here to reference like one is greater than the other. But what I will say is that there's so many out there, and that's one of the great things about our planet is so many different things to believe, right? But if your belief isn't making you a kind, generous, loving, nurturing, supportive, open, boundary setting for the purpose of honoring your space, your energy, your integrity, having clarity in your communication with love, kindness, and openness to uplift and not to argue, but to learn and discover about one another. It's like I watch people and they go into arguments. I'm like, what are you guys trying to win? Or do you want to to evolve by learning something that you never knew about another person that has a different belief than yours? Because this need to win is your ego. It's exactly what the system wants. It wants you to isolate and then attack for the fact that someone is different than what you're isolating in. And I don't adhere to those types of energies. I honestly believe that if you, like I said, if you are a person who has a belief and your belief is making you feel loving, kind, nurturing, supportive, giving, open, playful, sensual, all of the high vibrational fields of expression that you can bring forth on planet Earth, then it's a great belief. And if it's not, then why do you have it? That's what I'd say.
Mm. Why do you say that you don't co-validate another's experience?
In what sense?
When you're using your creative energy, you've said before that you're not co-validating when someone is going through a loop in their mind and they're saying that to you. Normally we want someone to validate us of like, oh yeah, you're having a hard day. Like, you're having a hard day, but you have this tool that you use.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
why
going to
is that?
co-validate anything that you say because I'm only going to hold space for you to show up and if you say something that is bringing your vibration down, I will bring it to your attention. And I do that with my family, my friends. I even do that to myself. I will not sit here and give unsolicited information to someone. I will always ask if they are open to discovering new things and being open to information that can support them. If they say no, I back off. I don't believe in stepping into people's energy space without their permission because they're on their own evolutionary journey. And I think that evolutionary journey is to be honored, And that's the reason why I don't use my powers to probe people's thoughts, because I think it's when I was younger, I used to do it because I was always afraid of people. And then as I got older and more wiser in my older years, I begin to realize that people have a right to their solidarity and their sovereignty. And that sovereignty and solidarity I can support in the sense of if you're going into a lower dimension, I'm going to pull you up and say like, hey, these words that you're saying are casting a really wicked spell that's not supportive to you on any level. But I'm not here. If you're going in circles and whatever, and you don't ask for my support, I'm not going to interfere. It's not my place to.
Mm. We've been talking a lot about remembrance throughout this whole conversation, and I'm curious to know if you could take us to that time in your life where you felt it was the first instance where you really started to remember yourself, because I feel like that could also open up remembrances for others when you share your story and your truth of how that happened for you.
Well, I would say, I don't know if that's going to open anything, but maybe it could, and then I'm willing to share. When I was a kid, I was staring at the wall, and I thought I could make the wall disappear. And so I kept touching the wall for like the longest time. My dad kept coming in and going like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's solid. It's not moving. Something is wrong." And in that moment, I realized that I was in a dimension where energy and frequency solidifies into matter. And I had an awakening of the part of myself that lived in a place where that's not so. And so my remembrance was seeing myself through that experience, not as I can't believe this is not happening, but I remember who I was. And now I have to integrate that awareness of who I was to who and what this is in this dimension, and what are the rules of this dimension, and how do they operate in this dimension, and what are the places that people say they are, and what are the ones that really are, but they don't see it or know it because they're so believing in just the wall. And so that for me was a really great remembrance for me.
You're mentioning in the beginning how a word or words carry codes, and those codes unlock certain dimensions. And you were talking about the rules of this dimension. Have you found ways where, through using your creative capabilities of language and words and spells, you've been able to move past those limiting factors of this dimension that can allow you to liberate your soul and explore even more of what this universe has to offer?
Yes, words and the right combination can be very powerful. But most human beings, when they operate, they don't operate in engagement, they operate in diagnosis. I'll explain. So when human beings go through life, this is what I hear come out of their mouth. "I have a stomach ache, Shaman Durek. I feel blocked in my energy. I feel that things aren't moving strong enough in my life. I don't know. I feel like there's something like getting in my way." Okay. These are all diagnoses. There's no engagement whatsoever. And so therefore spirit is left out, and the codes that are being administered from that is literally taking you deeper into that level of diagnosis. So it's not, engagement is one of the very important aspects of becoming what we call, when people talk about, becoming self-aware, or, coming into that space of higher intelligence. Engagement is the ability to communicate to the wall. Why are you solid? Communicating to the part of your being that is getting in your way, right? Most people don't engage themselves. They think themselves as one single cell being. They're operating in this consciousness where they just say, "I am, I am, I am," which is quite funny too, because I don't know where people came up with this whole thing on I am, but the I am is not how your subconscious and unconscious understands the universe. Your conscious mind understands I am, but if a spirit in the underworld heard you say I am, spirits love when human beings say I am. If I say, I am powerful. Okay. A spirit in the underworld can debunk that so quickly. All it has to do is go and look at some part in my life where I wasn't powerful. And it goes, are you really? Remember that time when you were at the spelling bee as a kid and you couldn't spell the word and everyone laughed at you? You weren't so powerful then. Or what about the time when and it would just keep looking for more ways to discredit your I am because you're using an I am statement and an I am statement isn't anchored. But when you say because, so if you start with because, so if I said, because I'm smart, I'm always open to new and amazing ideas. Spirit goes, oh God. He is a wordsmith. He understands how frequency and codes operate. He knows that if he said I am, I could find something. But because he says because, it means he's already claimed it. He's already named it. He's already embodied it. And now he's saying what he's embodied. And now he's saying what it does because he's embodied. So now it even makes the future and the now moment come together as one. So you're actually creating a way for spirit not to interfere. But again, people say things like, I had a very hard day. Yeah, that's great. And so spirit loves that because now you're creating, I had a very hard day. So spirit now can activate those words, open up a gate to bring in more hard energy and lock you into that hard day. But if you said, I'm having a very hard day. We're not asking you not to tell the truth. We're asking for you to illuminate it. I'm having a very hard day. However, my guides are so masterful. They are shifting my energy right now and opening up so much possibility for me. I can already feel the energy change. Now, I went from I'm having a hard day. Spirit's like, ugh. The beings in the underworld are like, oh, we can't get him now because now he's illuminating his hard day with a passageway for a being or an entity or a code or a frequency or something to come in and usher magic. This is how you shift, using your words. So when I listen to people speak, I pay attention to the words they use and the framework in which they use it in and for what purpose. If someone is telling me about, like if someone starts crying, okay, let's have this woman crying to me the other day. And I said, why are you crying? She's like, I'm crying. I said, no, you're not crying you're not crying because you're cleansing your water in your body. You're cleansing the old emotional stagnation in your system. You're crying because you're feeling sorry for yourself. And that's exactly what spirit wants. It wants you to activate your emotional intelligence to create, because remember what emotions is magnetic and the mind is electric. So the emotions expands and the electricity pinpoints, right? So that's when you say creating intention, that's electric. It means it goes right to it. But the emotions expands everything out into the universe. So the moment you start crying because you feel sorry for yourself, you can cry all you want. Spirit doesn't care about that. What spirit cares about is the codes coming off your body. All of the ancient codes that are coming off your body as you're crying is going out to the universe. And guess what? Going out to the universe, not that you're crying, that you are crying because you feel that you are not good enough or that you haven't done enough, or you're crying because you feel guilty. That's all that's coming out. That's all that's spreading out. And so you see all these codes of guilt and all these codes of I'm not good enough and all these codes of I feel sorry for myself. And then all the spirits that support that in the underworld say, thank you for calling us. We'll be right up. And then they just come right in. And what they do is they start taking all your codes, your frequencies, and they start building what we call how do people call it? It's called your casual body around you. Now, your casual body around you is what projects into your life. It's what creates circumstances. It's what makes things happen for you. It's what makes the difference between you meeting the love of your life or you not meeting the love of your life, because you have all these codes in your casual body of your aura. And these codes are sending out beacons of energy to call people into play. That means you're calling yourself in another body to come in and meet you. And then people say, oh, I can't believe that person came into my life and cheated on me. I'm like, darling, you were cheating on yourself way before that person came in. Every time someone came into a relationship with you, you put all your love, all the joy, all the things that made you happy and made it all about them. You cheated on yourself. All they did was follow your codes, called in, they got called in by your codes, and they matched your vibrational frequency based on your codes. That you, maybe your code was 1006845 and you had 1006848, and those codes are connecting because your codes are matching each other. So when I look at it shamanically, I can see the spells you've been casting for the past week, past month, past year, and it tells me what type of things are coming into your life. I don't have to be a psychic to figure it out because your codes already tell me what you're doing. Now, the cool thing about it is you can clean your energetic field, reset, right? And rebalance your codes by creating new codes that counterbalance those codes. So if you said, my life sucks, and you said that yesterday, right? And that code's been going out to the world, calling in those spirits, you could start today and say, I said my life sucks. However, there's so many powerful beings that are shifting and going out there in the world and bringing me the most beautiful things in my life that I've ever wanted. And my life's about to take a huge turn. Now they're like, all the codes that you wrote before gets completely shifted into the new code structure. And this is what it means, when we talk about in the Kabbalah, when we talk about, understanding the sacred laws of sorcery. These are the things that humans are doing naturally. They don't even realize it's a natural part of the Hermetic teachings of the ancient people. Like, you did not have Atlantis and go in Atlantis and have codes around you that were negative. You would be sent places to clear those energies. And the same in Egypt. If you were around the pharaoh or his family and you had those vibrational fields with you, the priest and the priestesses would say, oh no, this has to be cleansed, right? We have an honor of self-love through the stewardship of keeping our alliance clean. And when I say alliance, meaning what are you aligning with? Who is your alliance is based on the codes you're writing.
How do you guide yourself in clearing or cleansing that energy field and having those reset moments when we're writing the wrong codes to be able to write the better ones?
Oh, that's not something I can just explain. But, I do have an app that I created called the Lit Vibe Meditation app, which is an activation app for clearing those codes, which is a 5-minute, 10-minute quick clearing of those codes with an amazing community that shares their experiences. But to clear those codes, you have to learn imprinting. You have to learn about energy. It's about becoming really masterful in the realm of energy. Remember, your thought is every thought you have is a seed of energy that's being birthed into the divine feminine and then being birthed into this world. So you got to be careful what kind of seeds you put into the mother. And then your emotional intelligence is the energy you're pulling from the unknown and bringing it into the known. And it's important to know what kind of emotions, you're pulling into this world and why. And what purpose and how do you expect it to serve you? Like, if a friend is yelling at me, I always say, do you want me to hold space for you and hear everything you have to say? Or are you trying to push me away and shut me down? And is that why you're yelling at me? And they go, no, I want you to hold space. I'm like, so the emotion you chose is not the correct one for what you want to achieve. So let's go back and choose a different emotion, and then let's get, let's move this thing so we can have the highest support in me showing up and holding space for you. You see, when human beings start to utilize and understand energy as an energy research, as really starting to understand energy mastery. I mean, people are doing it in healing ways, Reiki and, this thing. And, they're understanding energies, they're understanding different things. But to really understand energy is to really start looking at energy as if you are choosing that energy for a specific task. Think of it like a tool. You're choosing it for a task. Is that task that you are choosing it for the right energy for that task? You're not gonna sweep the floor with a rake, right? So it's the same thing with energy. You have to be mindful, and that's where we get mindfulness. That's where we get when we talk about being mindful. It doesn't mean just being mindful. It means being aware of the seeds you're grabbing, and are those seeds the ones you want to put in the Divine Mother, because she is the emptiness of the universe. She is the dark space of the universe that will birth anything into manifestation. And she is representation of the unknown. She is the deep dark womb that once you put that seed in there, she blasts that seed into creation, right? And so, and again, if we look at darkness, we look at the underworld, right? When you look at the sky at night, it's a reflection of what darkness does for us. So when we look at the sky, we go, oh, the stars light up when the night comes. Well, that's the same with us. Darkness lights us up or can burn us out. It's our choice, right? So if we want to utilize the darkness in the right way, we let the darkness help us. And that's where the resilience, being a wounded shaman comes in, which is why spirit has, aligned me in that space. And it may not always be like that, but this is where it's been in my life thus far. It's not about, oh, I'm sick again, or oh, I'm back in the hospital, or oh, I'm dealing with, no kidneys, or oh, I'm dealing with this or that. It's not about that. It's about, what can I take from this experience and transform to illuminate my star brighter? Right? And using the darkness as an illuminator, an amplifier, a way in which to create a starburst of brilliance in this space-time universe.
What's one darkness within yourself that you've had to love so fully that it later then became a gift or a power, or you alchemize it into something else?
I feel that what was really a challenge for me was I hated myself when I was young, because I went through a great deal of physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. I was abandoned, but not when I look at it from this state of mind. It wasn't abandonment. It was just my mom left, and I was put down by people all the time for the color of my skin. And I'll never forget, I think it was my first year at school, my teacher made a comment about the color of my skin, and she kept making comments. And then my guidance counselor made a comment, and then I was put in the back of the classroom, and all the white kids were sitting in front. And I remember one of the black kids looked at me and said, yeah, that's why we're in the back, because they don't want to see us. And I remember every time I would walk, go somewhere as a little kid or whatever, someone always had to make a comment about the color of my skin. And so I hated myself. I hated my color. I hated everything about it. I wish that I could bleach it off of me and get it off. And that was something I had to confront in the darkness. And I had to confront the spirit that was making me feel that way. And then looking at how that has affected so many people on the planet, because through that process, I was able to fall in love with me and fall in love with my color, fall in love with the richness of my culture and my Nigerian roots and my Norwegian roots and my, who I am in all the different facets of my bloodline, but also helping others to see it within themselves as well. And standing against anything that would go against human rights. I'm very much an activist, so is my wife, against and supporting human rights, advocating for human rights, and advocating for people's right to be who they are without being, turmoiled or bullied or ridiculed on any level. And I think being a member of the European royal family also has been another level of that for me to experience people's narratives of me and what they think without even meeting me. And that has also given me resilience. And so that would never have happened if I didn't confront that darkness and embrace it. And I remember when I did, it was this dark being, and I remember telling it that I loved it, and it kept telling me, "There's no way you could ever love me. There's no way you could love me." It told me, "There's no way you could ever love me." And I just kept going in and telling it I love it and bringing it with me into the light. And then I ascended it, and then I started loving myself, and it changed everything. And then I started really getting into the history and the roots of people of color and all of the amazing things that they've accomplished throughout history. Really diving in and really understanding. Because when I was a kid, I mean, I go to the country club, and they always made me feel like I didn't belong, and I didn't understand why. And girls didn't want to date me because of the color of my skin, because their parents would have said something. I remember one time this girl brought me home, and the father was like, "You're black." I remember falling in love with a girl, and I was going to marry her at one point, and her parents told me, they were from New Zealand, and they were like, "Blocky? Are you blocky? I can't believe you're block." And so I've dealt with a great deal of that. And so, but because I've been able to transcend it and illuminate it, and then share and help bring it to the awareness of other people of how beautiful and amazing they are by showing them the steps that I took and in my sharings, it allows me to be a strong leader in human rights and supporting people, of all colors, shapes, sizes, sexual preferences. It doesn't matter to me, because it's all creation, it's all divine.
There's a lot of spiritual people or teachers that have chosen the path of kind of being more low key, hiding in the shadows. Your soul chose radical exposure, and you just mentioned, being part of the European royal family in Norway, marrying the Princess of Norway. What has that taught you about using your spirituality and your teachings to share that with more people than most other teachers that choose to not be so in the public eye? What has that taught you?
I think that it has taught me to be very mindful and careful of what I bring forth and why, and to really pay attention even more so, that I'm bringing sharings to the people that are really going to, be something that I've really been devoted to. It's not just some kind of thing I picked up on TikTok, or, some kind of thing that I heard by the fly of the night. No, these things are tried and true over years of devotion and divine, integration to support and hold that space for myself. And if that supports someone else, then great. And I think when you're in the eyes of the public, and I found that, being in the eyes of the public before I married my wife was okay. That was interesting. It wasn't so intense, but now it's way intense. Every time I walk out the door, it doesn't matter what country I'm in, people know who I am. And it's also a level of reverence that you have to have for the people. People come up to me every time I walk out the door and ask for autographs and pictures with me and things like that. And sometimes my friends who are with me, who are my close friends, they get really frustrated because, we can never just make it down a block without someone saying something or doing something. And they always say, "You're always so kind to the people. You're always giving them a picture. You're always signing an autograph. You don't get mad at them. Why?" And I said, "Because you don't know what it means to that person to have that. You don't know what that means to someone to have that moment that they courage to come up to you and say, 'Shaman Durek, I love what you do, and can I have a picture with you?'" To me, it's not about ego. It's about utilizing that level of power for the benefit of humanity. What I find is there's no reason for you to be famous or have public standing if you're not going to make it about the people. If you're just going to be like, oh, it's my fabulous life and I'm on yachts. And I mean, you can be on yachts and you can do those things. Don't get me wrong. I love those things. Don't get me wrong. However, but it's about the people. I'm going to say, but it's about the people. It's always about the people. Nothing in your life that you have has not been given to you because it has come from the people. And I think there's a level of dignity, respect, and kindness and love and compassion you must always have for the people. I have a lot of celebrity friends and I watch how they treat people. They get annoyed and agitated. We'll be at a restaurant. They'll get really angry with someone. I've even seen things with people where I've watched friends of mine go up to other people and then they get told off and then they go into depression for months because they worked up so much courage to go to that celebrity and say, hey, I really love your movie and what you do and I love your creativity, and that person just yells at them and snaps at them and just goes off on them. And I watch my friend go into the deep depression to the point of suicide, because they felt like the person that they've admired all these years watching movies as a kid and everything, and then they finally meet them because they are coming to an event with me and they go, oh, that's that person I'm one of their biggest fans. Dirk, I have to go say hello to them. And then I'm on the carpet and I see them saying something and I see them getting yelled at. I don't want to start crying. It's horrible. It's disgusting to have power and to use it that way. I don't think anyone should have celebrity status or power or, be a public figure or an influencer if they're not going to make it about the people. If they're just going to glorify themselves and make it about themselves and not really be there for the people, I don't understand what's the point of having it. What? So you can go to bed at night and go like, yay, everyone loves me. No, they don't, because they don't know you. And that's something I learned coming into my life with my wife and her family, is that people they write all these things about me globally. They make up a lot of stories that are not truthful. They say a lot of really mean things. And in the beginning, it used to put me into these deep depressions and suicide feelings. And I had to battle with these very dark energies, like one day I'm feeling suicidal. Next day I'm feeling I can't get out of bed because the press is digging and digging through all of the things I've done in my life. Oh, he went to a rave. Oh, he did this, or, and it's just like, and then they amplify it and then twist it and then amplify it and twist it and then send it to every magazine in the world, Spain, Germany, you name it. I'm in every magazine, every newspaper. And when I read it, I go like this, my friends read it and they're like, this isn't you. And I was like, exactly. And I remember one day someone said to me in a press conference, they said, how do you feel that the prime minister said, some really uncomfortable things about you? And I was like, I don't care. And they're like, what do you mean you don't care? It's the prime minister. I'm like, I don't care. He's not speaking from love, so I don't really care. But it took me a while to get there. And it was actually, what was really interesting about that? It was a beautiful experience because it was painful. It was heartache. I was crying. I was suicidal. I was in pain. I was going through all of these things. And then God came to me and said, you are going through this because you're going to transform this energy into something really beautiful for yourself. But you have to feel the fear that everyone has on the planet, which is the fear of what people think about you. And once I was able to transcend that energy of the fear of what people think about me to becoming okay with whatever people want to think about me, because if they don't break bread with me and they don't sit with me and they don't want to get to know me and they just make stories up about me, and I'm a villain in their story, then that's the villain that they want to have. That's fine. But I know who I am and I know what kind of love is in my heart for humanity. And so when I'm out in the street and people are coming up to me, I'm always going to be kind and courteous to people. And there was one time I was in Turkey, this guy came into one of my not webinars, but one of my talks, my lectures. And he started cursing at me and yelling at me and like spouting things, because he's Muslim, and he's telling me all these things. And afterwards, I went to give him a hug, and he pushed me away from giving him a hug. And I said, "That's okay. I still love you. It's okay." Because I'm not here to win you over, or to get something from you that I already get from God and from spirit and from my ancestors, from my wife, from my kids, from my family. What I'm here to do is hold space for you to see the possibilities that live in you if you choose. Kind of like I wake up every morning and I kind of put my little cart outside and have all these little cool things on the cart and say, "Hey," people are like, "What's that? What's that purple thing?" I was like, "Oh, that thing right there. That thing, it helps you to get over fears." "Oh, what's that?" "Oh, that thing right there, that helps you to da 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 da." And if you're interested, great. If you're not, you're not. But I'm not going to fight you for it. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to bicker with you. I'm not going to play power games with you. That's not my style. And I've learned how to be so resilient. I am so resilient and so in my who I am. And people have trashed me left and right. I seen what they did to Megan, and I got trashed like crazy. And it, I, I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. And those who want to know me on a real level, on an authentic level, they'll get the chance. And those who want to believe the stories and the lies that they read about me and the things that the people say, that's okay too. But I'm still going to keep spreading my love, my joy, my happiness, and keep holding space for the collective and for myself.
That's such a beautiful reflection, brother. Thank you for going there with us. And another thing that comes to mind there is also when we go to meet another person, staying in our own power. Because if we're going to another person already with the perception of putting them on a pedestal, we're disempowering ourselves, and we meet them through an escalator. One person's here,
Yeah.
one person's there. And if you meet someone in your own power and that other person is meeting you in their power, that's when beautiful conversations like these emerge. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, and thank you for being so unapologetic about your story and how you've gotten here. We end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, which are some final questions that we ask at the end. But before that, where would you send people to connect with you, with your work, all the beautiful offerings that you
With
have
my
out
love,
into the
not my work.
world?
My love.
Your love.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Connect with my
Where
love.
would you
That's
send
it.
people to connect with your love?
There you go. That's it. I'm not here to work. I'm not a slave.
Love that.
So
Love that.
if people want to connect with my love, they can connect with me through shamandurek.com. They can also get on the Lit Vibe meditation app, which is on Google and Apple, or they can connect with me through Instagram. I'm very easy to connect with, and I have a lot of content out there available for people who want to level up their evolution. It's up to them. I'm here for the time that I'm here, and when I'm gone, I'm gone.
Yeah. We'll include everything down in the show notes where people can go directly to that. For the final trio, these are personalized questions to each guest. The first one being, what is a word or phrase that you wish every human would speak out loud today to step into their highest potential?
I would say the word is acknowledgement. To acknowledge oneself is to acknowledge everyone else.
Beautiful. You've said that we're here to remember ourselves. What part of your divine self are you still remembering right now?
I'm remembering the parts of me that are, how do I say it and then make it make sense to you? There were parts of me in other times that I existed where I've enslaved thousands and thousands of people as an emperor. And I am remembering that for the purpose of understanding the people and how to communicate to these world leaders and world people that I sit on dinner tables with, to make sense of what they're doing and have compassion, but also bring some level of intelligence and wisdom to them in a way that I can.
What I keep getting when I hear your remembrances is that they come up for the reason and the purpose of relating to other people and relating to humanity as a whole. And if we've already been everything, we've existed as the emperor, the slave, like when we remember those memories, we can relate to people that are in those positions right now and have more compassion for them. So that's powerful. The last question I have for you today, Shaman Durek, is when all of this is said and done, what do you hope your soul is remembered for the rest of humanity?
How well I loved.
Period. Brother, it's been such an honor, such a joy, such a pleasure to sit down with you here and weave together powerful activations. There's a lot in here for continuous unpacking. So thank you so much for bringing all of your codes today, being so raw, being so vulnerable, and helping us connect with your heart. I would love to continue these conversations with you.
Yeah, and they're not my codes. Remember, everything belongs to our Mother, Father, God, in the universe. They're yours too. I'm just repeating your codes back to you.
Thank you for being a mirror. Thank you, brother.